Welcome to Whachacha's Tabletop World, the channel devoted to the love of board gaming. My name is Sweetness Whachacha, and today this is my overview of Fate. If you want to see my thoughts on the game, click on the link down below. Fate is a tower defense style cooperative game. Waves and waves of enemies are going to be attacking your town, and you are trying to stop them from destroying it. The players will win the game as long as at least one thing is standing in the town, the well. The rest of the countdown can be destroyed, but as long as you have that well, you'll win. So you'll have to survive a certain amount of rounds. There's a short game as well as a long game, and both had the same win condition. The waves of enemies are going to be coming at you. This is a Norse theme, so you're going to have trolls, brutes, goblins, skeletons, imps, draggers, elementals, sprites, and jotuns. I probably might have mispronounced some of those, so forgive me. So let's take a little closer look at the board first. Okay, on the board you're going to see stacks of monsters, okay? So they're going to be separated by the kind of monster they are, the trollkin, the dead, and the fire horde. They're going to have a reminder about their abilities, and then their stats are going to be along the side here. You'll also see there's the town here is in the middle, and it's going to be denoted with these little buildings here. Now, these are going to change depending on how many players are in the game, of course. So in a 4-player game, this is the amount that you'll have. This is the well here. This is the only building that needs to be remaining standing in order to win the game. You'll also notice there's some lines here. You'll see along the board, these little arrows here. And that's just showing you the direction the monsters will go. So if they're kind of along these hexes here, this monster will continue going here. Now, anytime they reach a road, they will no longer go that direction. They will now go on the road, and they'll just always follow the road into the town. Additionally, you'll notice there's locations here, like this is the Dark Forest, Temple Ruins, Dead Plains, and there's a bunch of effects that will happen depending on these locations. We'll go into that in a little bit more, but they also kind of help you to find areas easier when you're spawning monsters and things like that, so that can be very, very helpful. You'll notice these red lines here as well. These are kind of denoting areas. So this is like the Marsh of Sorrow. These are again on the also spawning areas, so that helps you to see how that area works as well. There are mountains, and players cannot enter mountainous spaces. So that's something to remember. There are also forests on the board. There's 2 kinds of forests, here and here, and those will have special rulings as well as a couple areas you'll see have these tokens. If a hero moves into one of these spaces, they'll be able to take these items, either the mana or the gold, and here they'll be able to heal themselves that much damage. You'll also notice that the monster turn is here so that you can follow that down quite easily. And then again, these are the 2, as I spoke before about, these are the 2 tracks. This is for the short game, and this is for the long game. If you can make it to the end here, you will win the game as long as you have one thing standing. You'll also notice a couple things on these spots here. We'll go into this a little more into difference in a moment, but these spaces here with the axes crossed here, that will mean that you're going to spawn another monster card, so you're going to spawn some additional enemies into the game. And then when you get down here to these skulls, that basically means when you move here, the monsters will move. So they're going to be moving very, very quickly when they get to the end, so there's no kind of hoping that a monster will be out of the way and won't be able to reach the town. Any monster will be able to get to the town before the end of the game. Okay, so let's take a look at the monsters here. They come in 3 different types, as I said, and their shape will denote these kind of the group that they belong to. So the fire horde is going to be triangles, the trollkin are going to be squares, and then the dead are going to be pentagons. In addition to that, you can see that they are arranged so that the weakest of the enemies are going to be physically the smallest tokens. The middle-sized enemy is going to be a slightly larger token, and the largest token is going to be the most dangerous of those types. Now, depending on what style they are in, so the Fire Horde here, their special ability for their faction is going to be that they all have a range of 2 to attack. Most things in this game can only attack something that's adjacent to them, but they're kind of shooting their fire away from them, so they can actually reach 2 spaces away. The Trollkin are going to get buffs based on how many trolls are near them. So, like if this guy was on the board and he had these guys next to him, he would get +2 dice because he has these 2 next to him. So they kind of get beefier as they get more of them around them. And then the dead are going to have a special ability where they're going to add fate dice, and let's just go right into that now. So let's show you the stats on them. So you'll see this bottom symbol here with the axe. That's going to be their fight value. So that's a fight value of 6. So they'll roll 6 dice when they attack. This then they'll have the symbols here, these 3 spots here. That's 3 gold. So when you defeat that monster, you're going to get a reward of 3 gold, which we'll go into in a moment. And then this is how many hit points they have. So it says 5 hit points. When you damage a monster, you'll just put this little die, this very, very tiny little die here. You can see you'll just put that as how much damage it has. So you'll place that on them. Now, the ability of the dead is that they get to count these fate die. Normally, the hits are these 2 kinds of hits here, but the fate die is the side of the die. They will also count, so they have an additional chance to hit. I'll go into more in that what that symbol means later. I should also mention that these 2 monsters have an additional rule associated with them. You'll see it's kind of denoted here on the board. The Drugger, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, he will ignore the first damage dealt to him at all. So he actually requires 6 to kill him, or over multiple turns, he's very kind of a tough creature to kill. And then the goblins, they will move 2 spaces instead of 1. So they move much quicker, but of course they're very weak to kill. And the last kind of enemy is going to be these legends. They're all in circles. They are going to spawn with other enemies as well, so they're very, very difficult. They have a lot more hit points, they reward you with a lot more experience, but they also attack for a lot, and they usually have some special ability, like this dragon here will attack for the amount of hit points it has left, which, you know, here he's got 18 to start with, so you can very easily kill, the heroes kind of start with like 6 or 10 hit points apiece, so you can see why that's a very, very dangerous enemy. So these enemies, if they enter the town, they will take away 3 buildings, as I mentioned before, rather than just the 1, so they're very, very difficult. So as I mentioned before, when the turn marker goes onto one of these spaces here, the double axes, you're going to get reinforcements. So when it moves into that space, you'll see that's a yellow space, and this is a red space. You're going to end up drawing one of these reinforcement cards. So these are a lot easier. These are a lot harder, the monsters that are going to come out, but essentially you're going to draw the top card, and so you'll look at it and it will say, like this one says, whirlwinds, they always wind up attacking. Now really, what's really nice is it shows you like the region that they are in. So if you look here, this is the Highlands, so you don't have to look all over the map trying to find it. And the space here is completely easy to tell. This is the Highlands here, which it makes it very, very easy to place them out. And again, the triangles are for the fire horde, you can see. So these are for the E, for the elementals, okay? Very easy to find them, and you see they're also the middle size. If you've got a mixture on there, it's very, very easy to tell. So you'll put these out like so, and that's how you spawn the monsters. Okay, so the game comes with 4 different heroes, and they have these little boxes that you'll store them in, their minis, their space to put their minis and their decks. Each hero is going to get their own sculpted mini. They're going to get a board, okay, and they're going to get their own selection of cards. Okay, on the board, you're gonna have a place to put all the different cards. These are your event cards. They're basically as you would assume they are, and they're gonna be different for every hero. So he can his kind of theme is to take damage and give more damage. So you can take a damage to add 3 to an attack, deal damage to an enemy and move them, complete quests, move around, gain gold, stuff like that. So there's all sorts of like different things that you can do. You will be able to put them here. You'll also have a piece of starting equipment. These are going to be your equipment cards. They're different for him as well. All these cards are going to be different for the hero. You can have a starting item here, so you'll equip that. The other equipment you're going to shuffle up, and you're going to place them in this slot here. You cannot look at the next card in line. We'll go into that in a moment. You're going to have a starting ability. You'll see it says starting there, and you're going to take that as a starting. These abilities are 2-sided, as is your hero card here, so you're going to be able to upgrade those, and we'll go into that in a minute. You're going to shuffle these up in the same way. You're going to place them here, and you cannot, as I say, look at the next card in line. Okay, you're also going to take some of these little wooden pieces here, and you're going to cover up those spots like so. And let's take a look at the rest of this here. So this is a spot to put your damage, gold, and focus. Okay, so gold, damage, and focus. You're going to see you have a number of hit points here on your card. He's got 6. He's going to have a base attack of 3, just like we talked about with the other, with how the monsters have, same symbol, same symbology. And then here you're going to get, this is your starting weapon, so you're going to have a +1, so that's 3, 4. You can have all sorts of different equipment. If you get a different kind of weapon, you'll overlay this, you'll put it on top. You can only have one weapon, essentially. And then you're going to start with a special ability here. So you can see this is a special ability. You pay 3 focus, and you can perform an attack action. So you'd have to pay, sometimes you'll have mana on this card, which is what this green cube is here, and you'll pay that to do the effect. You can only do it once per turn. Same thing with these as well. These equipment cards you'll see, they have like sort of, they can take damage, and when you can only do that once per turn as well, but it has something, an effect associated with that. Now let's take a look at the actions that you can take over your turn. So during your turn, you can never repeat an action, so you can see that you always will put them over one or the other. You can't, stack them up here, so that's kind of a nice way to remind you that you can't do that. Move is pretty self-explanatory. You can just move around the map, as I showed you before. The town is considered to be one space. If you enter the town, you have to end your movement. You can't take another movement action. You can't move through a friendly character, you can't move through an enemy character, and you can't move into mountains. Only monsters can move into mountains. Second, you can attack. Your attacking is the same way as I described the monsters. So you'll count up how many axes you have, 3, 4. You will roll 4 dice, and you'll see how many you got. So that was a really terrible roll. The fate symbols I'll talk about in a second. This is a hit. This is a hit. However, if I showed you before, if you're in the forests on the board, if you're in a forest, then this symbol will not count. You're considered to be in cover, so that will not count as a hit. So there's hit, and then the fate symbols, the dead will get that bonus there, and then some of your abilities will have that as well. Other things you can do is focus, which will allow you to add another focus token here, and those are used to spend on abilities and things. You can also use this, which is to mend. That will heal you 2 damage, so you can take 2 damage off. If you're in the town, you can also remove up to 5, and you can also remove them from equipment, and I'll show you in a second how the equipment can get damaged. And then of course here, this is your practice, which will allow you to gain a gold. And lastly, you can prepare, and that'll just mean you can draw another event card. You can only have up to 4 event cards in your hand. If you get another one, you will have to choose and discard one of those. So I showed you before, kind of like, there's abilities here. You can gain 2 gold if you're next to a mountain. This, you can spend a focus action to gain an experience, then a mana, then draw a card, which is kind of cool. Spend gold and Grimborn to gain a town piece. So if you kind of like lost a piece, that you can get that. Deal damage to a monster, move in an area, move 1 area, remove all damage from all equipment cards. Okay, and again, I'll go into that in a second. So there's all sorts of different, like they work on themes, and I'll kind of just touch on the other characters as well. Now let's take a look at the equipment card here. You'll see it has, at the top, it has a quest. So this says spend 1 practice action in a forest to gain access to these. And so essentially, you'll spend a practice action. You won't get the gold for it, but you'll take that action, and if you're in a forest, that's considered a quest. You've done what it's asked on the underlined spot, and then you'll gain this item. So all of these items have different things. Like, so this says end your movement in the Marsh of Sorrow, which is a specific spot on the map. Kill 3 monsters, and you get the card. Pay a gold for the equipment, then pay 2 gold for insurance and taxes. So just 3 gold will gain you that card. This one, you have to enter 7 areas, and so on and so forth. So they'll have different parameters, for doing so. Like spend 2 gold in the temple ruins, and spend a focus action to permanently put these on your feet. And they have different abilities. So let's some of them are, a little easier to understand than others. So let's take a look at this shield. So the shield says put a damage on here to prevent 2 damage. Well, it's pretty self-explanatory. You're going to take 2 damage, you put this on here, and that prevents 2 damage. Now, all the cards that have these kind of abilities, if it prevents damage, you can use them as many times as you want. Otherwise, you can only use them once a turn. So this one here says mining equipment. If you put a damage on there, you gain 2 gold. If you stand adjacent to a mountain area, you gain 3 if you stand adjacent to 3 mountain areas. So, but then when you get up to the limit here, so this says 2, if you ever have 2 damage on there, you can't use it again. The only way you can clear that is some cards will do so, or if you're in town, as I said, you'll be able to remove that as part of your healing mending action. So that's very useful to have. Then there's also new items and things, like, so this is a main weapon. You can use, it'll give you extra damage and stuff. So there's just various items that either, prevent damage or, add attack permanently. You can deal damage to other monsters that are near you, and so on and so forth. The other upgrades you'll see here are your abilities. So as you can look here, we'll go into how you'll get these in a second, but they'll give you special abilities that you'll be able to use for the rest of the game. Like Boulder may move into occupied areas, deal a damage to that character, and move it 1 area. So you kind of knock them out of the way, heal a damage from Boulder every single round. You can spend a focus here to prevent 1 damage, and then this one is like a big sweeping strike. You deal damage to the first monster, and then the next monster in line will get any of the spillover damage. Getting this upgrade will allow you to count the runes when you attack, so it's very, very powerful. And of course, here you'll see that'll get you an extra axe as well, so it'll increase your fighting ability. Now you also see that it says Beefy Berserker 1. You can upgrade this and that will slightly improve your ability here, and usually the stats on it as well. All of these abilities can be upgraded. You can also upgrade your starting ability to make it better. So this one gets to be used multiple times instead of just one time, as well as your your character. You can upgrade them from 3 attack and 6 hit points to 7 hit points and 5 attack. Still the same ability. So how do you upgrade? We've talked about that quite a bit. I've used that word quite often. At the end of the round, if you have enough gold, then gold/experience, you can spend that and you can upgrade. So right here it says upgrade costs. The first one is 5, so you'd have to spend 5 gold. If you do so, you'll move this to this square here and you'll choose what to do. So you can either take the topmost ability that's on here. So whatever the topmost ability is here, you'll be able to take that. Sorry, so this will be the number 1 here. Or you can flip your character over, or you can flip an ability you already have over. So you can flip this from Rapid Strike 1 to Rapid Strike 2. So you'll be able to do that. And then the cost will be 6 the next time you upgrade, and 8, and then 10. So you'll be able to possibly upgrade up to that many times per game. After you've done your 2 actions, whatever they happen to be, you're going to reset your actions, which is to move them back here. You're going to then upgrade. If you have enough points, you can upgrade, as I just described. You can only upgrade 1 time. However, even if you could upgrade multiple times, you're only allowed to do so 1. Then you'll add a mana. You'll notice some of these cards, like this one here, this Rapid Strike has a little mana symbol in the corner. You'll add a mana there. Now you can only spend this mana off of here for this ability. However, the mana that's in your pool here, you'll be able to spend on any of the other cards that you want to. Then you're going to draw a card, so you're just going to draw an event, and as I said before, if you get to 4, you'll have to discard 1 of them, and then you'll switch a card if you want to. So you can say, okay, well, I don't really want this, so you'll be able to put that on the bottom of the deck, and you can do the same exact thing with the equipment card. However, you cannot look at what's coming, and you can't go back once you make your decision. Now I'll just quickly go over the extra characters you get in the box. You've got Alva. She's kind of rewarded for going into or near forests. She's kind of a foresty kind of character. She's also got a ranged attack, so she can shoot things that are a space away. And her starting ability here will deal damage. You can deal 1 damage to 3 monsters within attack range, and of course you can upgrade that and her various abilities. But she kind of revolves around, around going into the forests and getting rewarded, getting focus and mana and stuff from that. Bjorn is more of a fighting kind of character as well. He's got a bow as well, so he can fight from a distance. He's extra good against trolls. He's got some extra abilities there. He can spend with his starting ability, spend focus to deal 3 damage to a monster within attack range, and also he can spend his focus action, add 2 damage. So he's a chunkier character here. He's got a 2 attack, and he's got 9 health. Then you've got Embla here. She's a little trixier. She moves around a lot. She's got a little bit of healing that she can do. She can prevent damage and deal damage. Her blade kind of sucks, but she does have an attack of 5 to start with and some pretty decent hit points. So she's a much more mobile kind of character. So each character is going to take their 2 actions. They're going to spend any free actions by, damaging any of their equipment, or spending any of their mana for any of their abilities, or playing any of those event cards. When you're done doing that, it's going to be the next player's turn, and then when everybody is gone, you're going to trigger the monster phase. So let's look at that. So you can see right here, the monster turn, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to move the time marker. So you'll just move it 1 space here. Again, this is the short game here. Now, if you enter a reinforcement space here, as I've showed you before, each player is going to draw 1 of these cards, as I described before. You will place them at the end, though. You'll see here in the reinforcement step, so you won't do that now. Then the second thing you're going to do is you're going to roll the monster die. Now, this is a sort of variant. You don't have to do this. This is going to make the monsters move and attack more frequently, so it makes the game harder, but also much more unpredictable. So this is just sort of a variant that you can choose to use or not to use. So the monsters all move as I described on these lines until they get to the town. However, the difference being if they're on a road, they will move down the road. You'll move the front monsters before you move the back monsters. So these monsters will move before this one. Again, this says to move this way, but he's on the road, so he would go here. Then he would go here. He will always stay on the road, okay? If he's standing next to you, he would not enter the town, because if a monster standing next to you, they will not move. They will choose to attack you instead. So you move these 2 first, so they would move, and then the monster behind them would move. Now, however, there is another thing that happens. If they're only one space away from you when they move. So in other words, like if the monster turn started, he'd move, and now he would move one, but then he would do something called a charge, and he would move one extra space if he's going to be in contact with you and be able to fight you. One exception are the legends. They will, if this legend was here, they will actually switch places with someone to get to you. In fact, actually it would be this way. And so they would switch places. They always kind of shove the other monsters out of the way. Okay, so let's just take, for example, this is after the monster phase, movement phase, this is what we have. Let's go into the monster attack phase. Okay, so you'll pick who attacks first. These are just two monsters standing next to Bjorn. Again, you'll see they have a 2 and a 2, a 4 and a 3. So let's go with him first. Let's say he'll attack first. Okay, he's got 2 hits. Now, again, the circle would mean if he was standing in a forest, he would be considered up cover, and that would be no hits. Again, because he's an undead, if you had rolled this and this, it'd be 2 hits. However, if it had been a brute here, and he had rolled this, then he would only have 1 hit. So the different monsters kind of work a little differently. This guy here would then, after he attacked, this guy would then attack with his 4 dice, as you can see, 4, and then that would be 2 hits as I described before. You would take those as damage on your cards. And it's the same thing going the other way. He has a ranged attack of 2, so if he was standing here, you could attack, whoever you wanted to attack. Let's say we want to attack this guy here. You would count up, they've got 1, 2, 3. 3 dice, roll them. That's 1, 2, 3 hits that you have here. You could also, after any die roll, you may spend a focus action. You could add 2 damage to that if you wanted to add a little bit of damage there. Same thing. Okay, so that's an overview of the game. Essentially, you are taking 2 actions, using your free actions, events, anything that you can play on your cards, spending focus, spending damage, and then you're going to pass play to the next player. They're going to do the same. When everybody's done, you're going to draw, those reinforcement cards. You're going to move the monsters. They're going to attack, and then you're going to place out reinforcements. You're going to try to survive until until all the turns are over in the game, and hopefully you got that one little well still standing, and you will have won the game. Now, a couple other notes that I wanted to make. Firstly, as I mentioned before, there's this green die you can add for added difficulty, but a bit more randomness as well. The solo game plays exactly the same as the regular game because you're going to draw a number of reinforcement cards equal to the number of players. So that has a bit of a balancing effect there. And I sort of forgot to mention in my overview that if you were ever knocked out, your hero is ever killed, you're not out of the game, you simply put yourself into the village and you remove 2 of the buildings as well. So it's a bit of a penalty. It really does, hurt to lose a hero because you're going to lose a bunch of those buildings, and that could actually kill you outright as well. Okay, so hopefully you enjoyed that. If you want to see my thoughts on the game, you can click on the link below. But for now, I gotta roll.